Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
Great news, we've got a sponsor. This show is now brought to you by Miles Franklin. And when it comes to protecting your wealth, you know there's nothing better than gold and silver. That's what I'm buying. I hope you're doing the same. And once you make the decision to buy gold and silver, there's no better place than Miles Franklin. Look, they've been in business 22 years. And the reason I'm a customer is because when you buy, they ship. Go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 to get a free quote. Some people think that the end of a jeweler's strike in India is irrelevant, that it has absolutely no effect upon your life. But Andy Hoffman, a.k.a. Ranting Andy Hoffman, here for our usual Monday get-together, has a different take. Andy, sorry your internet and your phone and everything is down, but we're trying to do the best we can, right?
Right. Well, if you want to get me ranting, then just then have Comcast screw up my phone, because then I'm in a really irritable mood. So, if you want to talk about India, I don't think there's anyone that would think that it's not an important event, except for the gold cartel, which won't let it be an important event. When it was first announced that the jewelers on strike in the largest physical buying nation in the world were going to be on strike 3 weeks ago, of course they attacked gold with it. Now that all of a sudden people are buying hand over fist today in India, we're only allowed to go up 1%. And of course we had over the weekend, and believe me, it's no coincidence, they picked Good Friday when the markets were closed to announce the absolutely horrible employment number. Basically, any kind of semblance of belief that there actually would be an end of QE was completely annihilated on Friday. And already I'm seeing even the mainstream articles calling for a new overt near-term QE program.
Yeah, well, hey, let's go the Indians, because that's a really cool story. People don't understand it, but basically the jewelers said the government was trying to add a new excise tax to gold. And I don't quite understand why, but they were doing it. And the jewelers said, we're not buying gold. We're going on strike. It lasted 3 weeks. It affected international markets and opened up the door for the banksters to really slam gold last week, which they did. And here we are now. The Indian government folded like a cheap lawn chair. They rolled back the tax. The strike's over. And like you said, gold's up a lousy $14 an ounce. And demand has got to be insane because there's 3 weeks of pent-up demand in the world's largest consumer gold market.
Right, and keep in mind, we talked about last week gold being attacked. It really had nothing to do with what was going on in India. It all happened in a matter of a couple of separate few-minute intervals. We had our Fed minutes mutilation and the day after as well, where all those declines happened in a matter of minutes based on, I think there were 650 million paper ounces thrown at the market during one of those times, and the other day I'm sure it was something like it. So it really had nothing to do with the physical demand. But the fact is, clearly there was some physical demand out of the market, that's back. But really, that's only a sidebar to what we're talking about with this payroll report. It was so incredibly horrible. I mean, even I was starting to believe that the BLS had found some new way to consistently lie and say there were 250,000 jobs every month. And they only got 120, and 90 of them with a birth-death model. They even had the goal to lower the unemployment rate again because we had a record surge of people that fell out of the labor force. So there's not a person on earth that believes that QE is not happening. And not just in the United States. They're saying they may announce a new QE measure in Japan as soon as tomorrow.
Right.
Even in China, where they announced a 3.5% CPI monthly report today, there are still calls for further monetary easing, if you could believe. And then, of course, Europe, where every day things get worse.
And people need to realize, you need to realize that these statistics are lies anyway. Even when they're properly done, they aren't necessarily accurate. They don't necessarily mean anything. But when you know that they're cooking that statistic every month to show an increase, and then they can only come up with 120,000 jobs, things are really bad. There's no green shoots. The other thing was labor force participation rate is down 88 million people. They're no longer part of the labor force. That's an incredible number, and we're not saying it just to bring people down. We don't want you depressed, but you need to know that we're in a depression. This is a depression, and you need to be prepared for it, because the only thing that your government knows how to do, and that's your government could be any government in the world that has a central bank, all they know how to do is print money. Your wealth will be destroyed because the governments of the world can't figure out any other way to bring back the economy.
And people need to realize it truly is debatable right now as to whether the European economy is worse off than the United States. To me, the only difference between the two is the fact that we have the world's reserve currency, and as a result, we have more leeway at this snapshot in time to print more money if we have problems. Our deficits are the biggest of all time. Our debts are the biggest of all time. Our political system is faltering. People are angry left and right, and we have a very, very, very difficult election coming up where there's going to be a debt-ceiling debacle and all kinds of electioneering. And it's just hard to believe that anyone could truly believe that Europe is really that much worse off than the United States. And frankly, it really doesn't matter, because something soon is going to come to either Europe or here, causing a new round of global meltdown.
Hey, and another thing is that some relatively minor or lesser-known rating agencies cut the U.S. debt from AA plus to AA, and there's a complete media blackout on that story. Did you happen to catch that?
Yeah, actually, it was put out on Thursday night because, these agencies are terrified of putting things out during market hours. And like you said, I haven't seen another story about it. But remember, Standard & Poor's is only a few months away from an announcement of the same. They said in February, if you don't fix the deficit issue, we're going to downgrade again in August, 6 months. Well, August is only a few months away. And by the way, the debt ceiling is now expected to be breached somewhere around August or September. So you can bet we're going to have the same exact problems then. And Standard & Poor's, with their new CEO, by the way, will, of course, downgrade the U.S. when we get to that point, as will Moody's, no matter what Warren Buffett tells the board of directors to do.
Mm-hmm. They really don't have a choice if they want to retain the least bit of their already greatly diminished credibility. They've got to cut it because, let's face it, the stuff is junk now. Nobody wants to admit it. We have a weekend at Bernie's economy, except we have a weekend at Ben Bernanke's, and the economy is dead or dying, and anything that could be done to revive it won't be attempted because the only thing that can save it is the free market.
Absolutely. No. Look, when Standard & Poor's downgraded the United States in August, okay, you really have to look at the comments to believe just how, when you talk about companies that can just completely ignore what they've said and the media ignoring it, they said in August, if you don't fix things, sometime in the next, I think it was 6 months, we're going to have to consider new downgrades. I mean, in 6 months, all we've done is raise the debt limit with no debate by $2.1 trillion. We had our super committee, which literally didn't cut one penny out of the economy. Yeah. And still, somehow, the Standard & Poor's is still sitting there. They haven't done anything, so we're going to wait until August. Look, all this is going to hit the fan late in the summer when the debt ceiling comes, because I assure you, this time around, when there's an election coming, it's going to be just as horrible as last year, with the Republicans using everything they can to get the Democrats out of office, and the Democrats fighting back and making it look like we're on the playground with children. So be ready for that this summer, because no matter what they do, that is the inevitable result.
No question. And one other thing, I don't know if you've been watching the declining gasoline consumption numbers, but it's breathtaking. I mean, we're talking about a 47% decline from the peak in 2005 or 6. And it's not because everybody out there is driving a Chevy Volt.
Yeah, I actually put that chart up a few weeks ago. It was, I think breathtaking is the best word, because remember, I was an oil field service analyst for 10 years. So I've done as much work on the oil price as I've done on the gold price. And oil demand never, ever goes down, ever. And yes, it's still going up in China and some of the emerging markets, but in the United States, we have seen a devastating drop in demand. And what do you know? All-time gasoline high prices, all-time high. So if that doesn't tell you that between the money printing and threatening Iran, which isn't going away anytime soon, that this nation is purposely destroying itself, I don't know what does.
And then you also see massive record exports of refined petroleum products, and you've seen a bunch of refineries across the country shut down as well because they're drowning in supply, and yet all-time record high for gasoline prices.
Yeah, that's right. We actually are producing more oil in the United States than we ever have. At the same time, that demand is actually falling. Yet, prices are at all-time highs for gasoline, not just in America, but everywhere.
Well, we got to buy gold and silver, and we got to just keep focused and not listen to the noise, because the noise will drive you to distraction.
That's right. And if you own physical gold, you're not investing in anything. You're just saving. I don't even think about it. The only thing when I see the price moving down is that it makes me angry. It doesn't change my life any, because it's not a paper investment. I think of my wealth in terms of ounces, not dollars. And as a result, you know, the more, when it goes down in price, all I think is I can buy more ounces.
Exactly. And silver is looking like a good buy right now. I mean, I know I've been talking about it for months, and by all rights, it should be 50% to 100% higher than it is now. But at the low 30s, it's really almost too good a deal to pass up.
Yeah, well, the right shoulder of its, you know, now 7-month reverse head and shoulders pattern is just about completed, if not completed already. And that base is $30 per ounce. And I've maintained for some time that I believe 18 months of price capping and finally getting over that price has created long-term support at $30. I frankly would be shocked if they could get it below $30 for any material period of time. And I think if they did, the exact same thing would happen is when they pushed it below 30 for 2 seconds back in September and December. We had some of our busiest days ever at Miles Franklin, and we'll have it across the industry if they try to do it again.
Oh, yeah, not a question about it. And even in the low 30s, though, it's a screaming buy. There's not much you can buy out there that's really that cheap, that's going to have value once everything hits the fan, which it's going to do in one form or another. It's just a question of how bad it's going to be. On that wonderful note, Andy can be reached at milesfranklin.com. Sign up for his blog, for David Scheckman's daily blog. Great information there and really keeps you informed. Also, you can find a lot of their work at kerrylutz.com. And Andy, we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kerry. Have a great week.
You too.